Hello and welcome to Chadify. Today we'll be analyzing 3 new individuals who purchased my face analysis, Looksmaxxing suggestions, and Chadification gig off my website, Chadify.me. I would like to thank each of these 3 individuals for allowing me to showcase the results here and to support the channel Chadify. If you would like to get your face analyzed with personalized Looksmaxxing suggestions and Chadification done to your unique circumstances, I highly recommend you check out my website, Chadify.me. The purpose of Chadify is to help others. I will be employing a mathematical rating criterion that I developed. Alright guys, on to face number 1. He's 22 years of age, at 59 kgs or 130 pounds, at 5'5" or 165 centimeters. He's a bit on the shorter end, but he's a decent weight currently for his height, which we can improve further. Here's a smiling shot, I love it, and then we got a left-sided view of his face and a right-side view. Alright, best features in order of importance. Face number 1. First of all, he's a straight mandible. It's absolutely great. He has no hyoid fat or sag and he's facially lean. Honestly, this one is excessively good in his case. It is almost like inverted. It practically looks like he has no skin here. He's very lean. Face number 1 also has excellent tanned skin quality, which is apparent in all these 3 photos. And of course, he's young. Face number 1 has almond eye shape, compact orbitals, and good width of 3.4 to 1. Additionally, face number 1 has ideal eye spacing of a 100% of one eye width apart and an ES ratio of 0.45. I know that I've said previously that the optimal window is between 0.46 and 0.49, but being only a hair below it with 100% of one eye width apart in spacing, he pretty much classifies as ideal. Face number 1 also has positive canthal tilt with a downward pointing medial canthus, which is highly attractive, and he has minimal upper eyelid exposure. Face number 1 also has straight white teeth and an excellent smile. However, there is some nuance on this later. Face number 1 also has a good mid-face width of 1.73 to 1. Face number 1 has short eyebrow distance, and he has thick, luscious hair. Face number 3 also has a lengthy ramus where the gonian undercuts the mouth, and he has an excellent cupid's bow. Face number 1 also has dark, thick eyebrows and eyelashes. Furthermore, face number 1 has full lips. And finally, face number 1 has a relatively forward-grown maxilla. Facial flaws in order of importance. Face number 1. First of all, he has a long philtrum of 1.8 to 1 length. He also has a steep gonial and mandible angle of 127.5 degrees for his gonial angle and 30 degrees for his mandible angle. The thing is, optimally this should be anywhere from 110 to 120 degrees for his gonial angle and about 10 maybe to 20 degrees tops for his mandible angle. He has some downward mandible growth. So optimally, where the dotted lines here, this is where his chin ideally and his mandible kind of should be situated rather than going down so far, which is honestly connected to his mandible angle being 30 degrees. He has close set eyebrows, so this part right here, medial canthus, it shouldn't be there, and he has a slightly long mid face of 1.07 to 1, again could be very much connected to his downward mandible growth and a higher mandible angle than ideal. He has a slightly thin neck, and he has average chin projection. Ideally, it should come out a bit further. Face number 1 also has a slightly large face relative to his cranium. It's funny because all these things are connected, and he has a slightly wide chin. So the remaining flaws for face number 1 are minor, but you're going to see as we dive deeper that there are some things related to his smile which are hidden. You can't see it right now, hence why it isn't a facial flaw. So number 2, steep gonial and mandible angles, downward mandible growth, slightly long mid-face, average chin projection, and cranium, the cranium to face ratio, and maybe even a slightly wide chin are all connected to something secret going on with his bite, despite his teeth being very straight. And you're going to see that next. Alright guys, guess face number 1's rating. So, we got the pretty boy masculinity scale here. Boom, 6 out of 10 from the blend masculinity perspective, peaking from the pretty boy zone at half a point higher. Looksmaxxing Advice, face number 1. First of all, gym, gain muscle, lose fat. Again, we all know that it is useful for pretty boys just as much as masculine. Maybe not as much, but definitely still useful for pretty boys and is critical for gaining neck size. Ultimately, if face number 1 were to dabble in working out and gaining muscle, etc., he would look a lot better, especially from this angle, getting some muscle in. Eyebrow maintenance, only to the medial canthus, we got to get rid of these regions here for sure. Orthodontics, boom. Suddenly, everything falls into place. With all those things that were connected as flaws, they all relate to his anterior open bite, which basically means from incisor to incisor, the front of his teeth here are more opened than the posterior or molar region when mandible is relaxed. Even when you bite down, you'll see what happens. When he bites down, these teeth should align, but the front stay a little bit open. And it was kind of possible to see in his smiling shot. And as a result of that, although they're straight and although they look good, they're not perfectly aligned, and it can result in some issues for his appearance. There's many different surgical approaches that would depend on his case. Because you could have an upper or a lower jaw kind of situation, it could honestly involve multiple different tactics, being maxillary impaction or Lefort one osteotomy for protruded upper jaw. So he basically has more of a protruded lower jaw in my opinion. However, I'm not an orthodontist, so I don't know everything, and obviously face number 1 and whoever wants to, seek out medical advice should consult obviously an orthodontist over me, but I can give an idea of my opinion. And I would say that something to do with his lower jaw because it's protruded downward slightly, so this stuff would likely be more important. However, in some cases, yes, both might need some work, and with a longer philtrum, there's a chance that he actually has an upper jaw that might also need some work done to fix that gap. But then, he may have an anterior open bite, but the truth is, he has very straight, very white teeth. It may not be necessary to do all this unless face number 1 is experiencing some type of discomfort, pain, or health risks without treating it, which is possible in some cases with the jaw. And then mewing. Wouldn't be surprised if you already do this face number 1, but it could be also helpful considering your bite. It might make slight improvements over time. Skincare regimen. So the pretty boy skin type really requires us again, UV, hyaluronic acid, all these different treatments. Just keep it as smooth as possible, maybe even retinol. Ultimately, that just connects, again, pretty boy archetype, longer hair, lower body fat percentage, clean shaven, trendy clothing, and youthful appearance. Honestly, I like that shirt. I think it's very trendy, and it does fit that kind of youthful appearance for sure. Time to Chadify, face number 1. With unlimited budget comes unlimited possibilities. Face number 1, let's take him to the A+ range of attractiveness. Boom, holy crap. So fixing up the eyebrows made a massive difference. I slightly squared off his hairline, and then we added a bit of a jawline enhancement here, as well as a slight lip lift, which would definitely be related potentially to working on the anterior open bite. Again, he's still in that pretty boy zone for sure. Here is a more zoomed in version with longer hairstyles as well as a bonus. So we're going to see he's coming up to the A+ range of attractiveness. Then we get some bangs because I think that he could pull this off, this look. Had a friend that had this look. And then we have a longer hairstyle, which I think this might be the ideal state right here. Then we got a very long hairstyle. So I'd say the slightly long hairstyle, maybe a little shorter than this, looks great on him. He could keep the same hairstyle. Some people are going to probably say, he doesn't look as good with longer hair. Personally, I think he looks pretty good, but it's definitely a bit nuanced. It's more personal preference than anything. All right, guys, face number 2, age 39, 157 pounds at 5'9". We got a front view without glasses. This is his left side. Here's his right side, a slight angle right side view, smiling front face shot, smiling closed mouth, lip, and then glasses smile, and then closed lip, glasses smile. Excellent. Best features in order of importance. Face number 2, let's do it. First of all, a straightforward grown mandible with excellent chin projection, pretty much an obvious one right here. Secondly, negligible hyoid fat or sag, and facially lean. Face number 2 has minimal upper eyelid exposure. In fact, it's slightly bordering on the hooded appearance. So it's definitely still in that almond area, but you can definitely see with the white dotted lines here, it definitely appears like it's close. It's bordering on it. And clear, blemish-free skin. He's an ideal gonial angle of 120 degrees and a good eye ratio with highly compact orbitals, so 2.7 to 1, and relatively short eye-eyebrow distance. This might be a little bit deceiving because his eyebrows are way lighter and thinner than ideal. Additionally, face number 2 has excellent turquoise eye color. It's right between the blue and the green area. Look at that. It looks so attractive, incredible. Face number 2 also has a lengthy ramus and a prominent brow ridge. And finally, face number 2 has equal thirds of his jaw. Facial flaws in order of importance. Face number 2. He has a very long mid-face of 1.12 to 1, which will be related to something we will discuss later. Secondly, he has a thin mid-face of only 1.45 to 1. Again, this is a pretty major flaw. Face number 2 has a steeper mandible angle than ideal of 25 degrees. However, it isn't the end-all be-all, and he has slightly wide-set eyes of 125% of one eye width apart, which that part would classify as a major flaw, but his ES ratio is not quite as bad at 0.49. Face number 2 has signs of hair loss with an oversized forehead. Again, this could be genetic, but it's still a flaw that we should work on regardless. Additionally, face number 2 has a good smile, but a gap between his front teeth. And this is a small flaw because it's not something where it's like, holy crap, it's going to ruin his look, but it is something that he should be aware of as a small flaw. That's also called a diastema, a gap. And he has a slightly long chin. And this is pretty interesting because a lot of people with longer mid-faces typically have shorter chins because it's recessed, but he doesn't have that. He simply just has a long mid-face, and face number 2 has some graying, which unfortunately makes him look a lot older than he actually is from a hair perspective, not the face. And then finally, this is connected to the way that he has a long mid-face but a slightly long chin still, is the fact that he just has thin lips that he's to work on. He's a slightly thin neck, and his gonian undercuts his mouth but is a bit rounded. And finally, he has very thin, light eyebrows and eyelashes. The only reason that they kind of connect decently right now is the gray hair. And he has eye bags, which are quite prominent. And then finally, he has slight nasolabial folds of the skin right here. Nothing too drastic, but it sometimes is related to age, sometimes is related to water retention. And he doesn't look like he has very aged skin, so it's like it might be the latter. And he has slight narrowing of his lower third. All right, guys, guess. Let's do it. We got our blend masculinity pretty boy scale. Boom. 5 out of 10 attractiveness from the blend masculinity perspective. He's definitely in that normie tier. Looksmaxxing Advice. Gain muscle. This would improve your neck and improve your facial aesthetics everywhere. Personally, I've found a mosquito. Personally, I found that doing overhead press, deadlifts, and neck training improved my outward gonian growth and my lower third of facial width slightly. I actually enhanced it slightly from lifting. So this is definitely a recommendation that I have for you. Sleep hygiene. Those dark circles could be partly genetic though, and in that case, getting a concealer that you can apply underneath there to get your skin color kind of like blended in. I know it sounds weird putting concealer on, guy, but it is very much useful. You want to get rid of this appearance. You could also use concealer in the nasolabial folds, which will immensely improve your attractiveness. Thirdly, castor oil and definitely an eyebrow transplant. The truth is, face number 2 has very thin and light eyebrows. He may need to get an eyebrow transplant first in order to actually see the results of castor oil take place. Fourthly, skincare regimen. Hyaluronic acid for hydration, like I said many times before, and UV protection is key with lighter skin. Anything to keep your skin looking youthful and younger. Fifthly, mewing. This is ideal for longer mid-faces. Of course, it's going to have some limited efficacy due to your age being a bit older than the ideal, like under 25 years area. Still recommended though. And then lip augmentation. I mean, this is going to be massive for you. We don't need to make it like excessive, but getting them to improve your longer than ideal mid-face and thinner lips, highly recommended. And finally, microneedling, Botox, hairline lowering. These are the harder looksmaxxing techniques. Microneedling to make wrinkles and different fine lines. Botox to bring up those areas, make them look younger. Again, super minor. You probably don't need this at all. And the hairline lowering, that would be worth a bit more consideration. Time to Chadify face number 2. Let's bring him up to the A+ level of attractiveness. Wow. I didn't get rid of his gray hair just yet, but I will in the next few ones. I don't think that the gray hair necessarily completely takes away from his look, especially once we get a few other things under control. And I mean, he looks quite incredible here. There's a lot of the improvements I was suggesting earlier took place, and you can see how it's an even distribution of the looksmaxxing techniques, targeting towards equally to the blend, masculine, and pretty zones. Here's a zoomed in version with various bonus hairstyles. So you can see how his hairline's lowering a bit, lip augmentation, really good. Then the slightly longer hair, so I really like the brown now with it. Then even longer hair. Again, you don't need to go this long necessarily, and then a very long hairstyle. So I kind of included them all. This would be like a scruffy kind of look, but we can definitely all agree that he looks a lot younger when he has dyed hair that's a bit brown and longer. So this is definitely an option for him going forward if he wants to reduce the appearance of his age. And it ties really nicely into his beautiful turquoise eye color, having this brown hair and a bit of blonde mixed into it. All right, guys, face number 3, age 20, 135 pounds at 5'10". Here is the left side of his face. Here's a smiling shot on an angle. Here is in the gym, and here is his physique currently. He's literally just began lifting. I can see this guy making serious progress in the gym going forward, and with an already quite lean face. Like, look at how lean his face is relative to his body, which is not quite as lean. Imagine when this gets a little bit more jacked and shredded, how his face is going to look. Best features in order of importance. Face number 3. First of all, he has no hyoid fat or sag and a very low body fat percentage. Secondly, he's a straightforward grown mandible, which absolutely has excellent projection. Thirdly, he has tanned clear skin, which is very young and youthful, as well as an excellent smile with great dimples, an amazing additive feature. Furthermore, face number 3 has an ideal gonial angle of 122.5 degrees and almond eye shape with minimal upper eyelid exposure. Face 3 also has short eyebrow distance, thick luscious hair with great color and texture, as well as a thick neck. Now, his neck could be a lot bigger still, from the side view especially, but he's already in great territory. Furthermore, face number 3 has a lengthy ramus where the gonian undercuts his mouth. He has good chin projection and a highly compact mid-face of 1.02 to 1. He also has a decent mid-face width of 1.65 to 1, as well as neutral canthal tilt and slightly positive eyebrow tilt. Additionally, face number 3 has full lips, a good cupid's bow, and a prominent brow ridge. On to his flaws in order of importance. Face number 3 has a sideways pointing medial canthus of the eye and is partly one of the reasons why he has neutral, not positive, canthal tilt. He has a slightly long philtrum of 2 to 1 in length. Furthermore, he has some scleral show due to his lower eyelids not being in the ideal placement, as well as a slightly narrow chin region. Face 3 also has ears which stick out and a slight narrowing of his lower third. Finally, the smallest flaw that face number 3 has is middle set average compactness eye orbitals. Alright, guess his rating. 3, 2, 1. 7 out of 10 attractiveness. Face number 3 is a very good looking guy. And in fact, he's a slightly prettier appearance, hence his score being higher from the pretty boy region by half of a point at its apex. Looksmaxxing advice. Face number 3, let's do it. Gym, continue to gain muscle. Your physique already is excellent, and the fact that you're starting young and at a lean state means you're going to continue to make serious progress going forward without needing to cut prematurely. I think that you should overhead press as much as possible to gain as much mass in your shoulders, neck, and upper chest regions. You want to get this upper body to look aesthetic and attractive for your prettier appearance. Gradually working towards 75 kgs is a solid weight for your height in my opinion, being only 61 kilograms currently. Secondly, trimming your eyebrows. Although I like your eyebrows already, I believe that if you trim the inner portion of them slightly more to where the medial canthus begins, as well as improving their tilt slightly, you could definitely get your appearance to look that much more attractive. Thirdly, skin skincare regimen. Exfoliating, cleansing, and moisturizing creams will help you develop vibrant, young, and healthy skin texture. You've already done this, but let's push it further. With the pretty boy appearance, hyaluronic acid is the best thing to use to trap moisture into your skin and make it look as aesthetic and attractive as possible. On top of this, proper UV protection is key even when you're tanned, as you already are. Obviously, I'm not saying to be a vampire and stay inside all day. I'm just saying be careful, especially in the nose and facial regions. Beard maxing. I think with a prettier appearance, sporting a beard is completely unnecessary. Although I don't mind a goatee appearance, simply put, because you have an unideal chin filtrum ratio. If you were to grow the chin portion a bit longer, it could be more in that 2.25 to 1 range, the lower echelon for chin filtrum ratio optimal area. However, even a clean shaven look will look good on you because pretty boys can get away with a lower chin filtrum ratio. Definitely do not grow a thick beard though. Style maxing. With a frame that's slim and youthful, young, and pretty like you are, you definitely need to be looking into kind of casual, cool jean jacket type clothing. Things that make you look young, but extremely stylish and intelligent from a style standpoint. On top of this, having a gold chain type situation going on would absolutely look excellent because you have tan skin, brown eyes, and brown hair. A gold chain or even a gold watch will be the most excellent and beautiful accessory for your situation. Now onto your haircut. I already think your haircut suits you and bash sometimes on the fade hairstyle, but in your case it looks quite good. Again, I think you could definitely experiment with longer cuts simply because your mid-face isn't extremely wide. And with a thinner mid-face, sometimes bringing out your hair a bit on the sides can actually make your face look that much more attractive. So I'm not gonna say right now that you should change it up, but I think in the future you could definitely experiment with some different styles. Teeth whitening. You have slightly stained teeth, but I would say that as a pretty boy, getting them as white as possible using crushed white strips or going to the dentist professionally is definitely recommended. We want to get these teeth looking the best we can and to basically show it off to the world. Honestly, just keep it up and I'm sure you're going to make immense gains going forward in every avenue of self-improvement. Time to Chadify. Base number 3. Let's do it. Boom. So you can see how the Looksmaxxing flow diagrams are more targeted towards the pretty boy area. Of course, there are some improvements across the board because you're gaining muscle and you're becoming more masculine as well as more feminine at the same time. I would say that some of the interesting surgical notable things here is the fact that your ears were pinned back slightly. That is a minor flaw, but it's definitely something that if you did want to get surgical intervention for with professionals, of course, it would make a small but significant improvement on your appearance. On top of this, I lowered your brow ridge slightly, which could actually be mimicked from slightly plucking the upper brow area or just Botox to lower it in general. Again, probably not something you need to do, as well as hollowing up out your cheekbones more and squaring off your chin, which is possible through chin fillers. Here is our final side-by-side chadification of face number 1, 2, and 3. You can see how each of these individuals look excellent as they get chadified. If you like the video, please give it a comment and like, as it helps the YouTube algorithm. Thank you very much, and I'll talk to you guys next time.